The unsolved case that I'm looking at today changed the lives of a family when their oldest daughter was left alone for just over 90 seconds. Over 20 years later, the family of Mikelle Biggs are still trying to find their missing daughter, hoping that someone, somewhere, will know where she is or what happened to her. Born on the 31st of May, 1987, Mikelle was the oldest of 4 children. The Biggs family lived in the suburbs of Mesa, Arizona, and their lives, up until this point, were normal, happy, and drama-free. The youngest girl in the family, Kimber, remembers her sister Mikelle well, even though she was very young when she vanished. She said that Mikelle was pretty much a perfect kid, that she did really well in school and always got straight A's, and that she loved to draw. Her dream job when she grew up was to be an animator at Disney. It was January the 2nd, 1999, and despite it being a really cold day, 11-year-old Mikelle and her younger sister Kimber were outside playing on a bike that Kimber had just got. They were playing around on the street just outside their house, which was a regular occurrence for them, when they heard the sound of an ice cream van in the distance. Luckily, the 2 girls had enough change in their pockets for an ice cream each, and they waited patiently for the van to appear. They waited 5, perhaps 10 minutes, and by that time, the sun had started to set and it was becoming cold. When there was still no sign of the ice cream van, Kimber decided to go back inside and get a jacket. Mikelle said she'd keep waiting, just in case the ice cream truck came. And when Kimber turned to go back inside the house, she had no idea that that would be the last time she would ever see her sister. Back inside, she told their mum, Tracy, that they were waiting for the ice cream truck, but it was taking forever, and that she'd got cold. Since it was nearly getting dark, Tracy told Kimber to go back out and ask Michelle to come inside. But when she got back to the corner where she'd left Mikelle, her sister was nowhere to be seen. She noticed immediately several coins lying on the floor, the money Mikelle had been holding for the ice creams, and Kimber's bike lying on its side, the wheels still spinning. Kimber picked up her bike and called her sister's name. When there was no response, she went back home and told her mum that she couldn't find Mikelle. At first, Tracy wasn't overly concerned, because the neighbourhood children frequently visited and played in each other's yards. She sent Kimber across the street to a house owned by the Miller family, who were friends with the Biggs. But Mikelle wasn't there either, and nobody had seen her. One of the Miller's sons went outside with Kimber, and she took him to the place where she'd been standing with Mikelle, waiting for the ice cream van. And with still no sign of her anywhere, he suggested she go home and tell her mum that Mikelle was missing. A search was organised almost immediately. The police searched the streets and knocked on every door in the neighbourhood, looking for the missing girl. They asked Kimber a lot of questions so that they could retrace everything that had happened when the girls were outside, from the second they went out to play to the moment when she went back outside to find her sister was missing. They estimated that the time between Kimber going in to get a jacket and coming back outside to find Mikelle missing was just 90 seconds. There really wasn't much to go on. The police brought out search dogs to the street, but they lost her scent after only a few meters, suggesting that she may have been taken away in a vehicle. Initially, the police concentrated on tracking down anyone operating an ice cream truck in the area at that time. But because it was January, most of them weren't in business, and those that were quickly cleared as suspects. Having no other leads, the police turned towards the family and focused on Mikelle's father, Darian Biggs. Even though he was later cleared as a suspect, he had hidden some facts during the initial questioning that raised suspicions. For one thing, he lied about where he was at the time his daughter went missing. His wife, Tracy, was under the impression that her husband was working when Mikelle went missing, and he should have been, given the time of day. However, when she called to tell him that Mikelle was gone, he wasn't in the office. He had told police that he was at a friend's house. After being questioned for a second time, however, he admitted that he wasn't at home or work because he was actually with another woman. Suspicions only increased when Darian failed a lie detector test that he had volunteered to take. Yes, lie detector tests have since been discredited, but even then, investigators said he probably failed it because he was in a lot of emotional distress, which would have adversely affected the results. He was eventually cleared as a suspect after being put under police surveillance for a whole year. Another lead the police were following related to a man who lived close by to the Biggs family, Dee Blaylock. Blaylock was a handyman and a part-time landscaper who lived across the road from the house in the neighbourhood where Mikelle took piano lessons. Coincidentally, this was also the same street where her best friend lived, so she had spent a lot of time in that area. Initially, he hadn't raised any concerns or even been on the police radar at all, since he'd been at home with his wife at the time Mikelle had disappeared and had been watching a football game in the garage. The couple had even allowed investigators to conduct a search of their home for evidence, but nothing was found. However, a year later, he suddenly rose to the top of their list of suspects. In what had seemed like a random act, Dee Blaylock attacked and assaulted one of the Biggs' neighbours, a woman named Susan Quinnett. After the violent attack, as she was recovering in hospital, it was said that she felt, almost instinctively, that the man who had perpetrated this attack was somehow also responsible for what had happened to Mikelle. She was so sure that she made an official statement to that regard, even expressing that she would drop the charges against Blaylock if he confessed to taking Mikelle. What added some weight to her opinion was the fact that this wasn't the first time Blaylock had committed this sort of crime, and he had previously targeted children. He was on the registered sex offenders list, with prior convictions in 3 states. So the police questioned Blaylock's wife again, and what she revealed really changed their line of thinking. Blaylock's wife admitted that their marriage was dysfunctional, and that she often lived in fear and was made to follow his instructions, or he would become abusive and controlling. She confirmed that on the day Mikelle vanished, she'd seen her husband in the garage when she went in to bring him some food. However, this is the crucial part. He told her not to come in again and bother him. So she couldn't say for sure whether he was in there the whole time. Blaylock is currently serving a 187-year sentence in a maximum security prison for his conviction in the case against Susan Quinnett. And yet, there's still no evidence to charge him with any crimes relating to Mikelle. Amazingly, Tracy and Darian Biggs even visited Blaylock in prison to ask him face-to-face if he'd taken their daughter. He denied it completely and still claims he had nothing to do with Mikelle's disappearance to this day. So with relatively little to go on, the case started to go cold. With each passing year, investigators were further and further away from finding any leads relating to the disappearance of Mikelle. There was one brief glimmer of hope in Wisconsin in 2018, when somebody used a dollar bill to make a purchase in a store, and on that bill was a message. It said, "My name is Mikelle Biggs, kidnapped from Mesa, Arizona. I'm alive." However, investigators quickly ruled out the possibility that this message was genuine and chalked it up to being just another dead end. For one thing, Mikelle's name was spelt incorrectly on the bill, and there was precious little information to go on. It was also pointless testing for fingerprints or DNA, because money passes constantly through people's hands. The message was thought to be a hoax or a sick prank. In 2004, on the 5th anniversary of Mikelle's disappearance, her family held an empty casket funeral for her. This, at least, was able to provide the family with some closure. The casket was white, with purple flowers, Mikelle's favourite colour. Darian and Tracy eventually got a divorce and went their separate ways. Darian got remarried and Tracy moved to Utah. As Kimber grew up, she accepted that her sister was probably gone forever. However, she is still passionate about finding out what happened to her and still believes that Blaylock is likely to blame. She's also said that she believes he may not admit to taking or killing Mikelle, because doing so may result in a sentence of capital punishment. She set up a Facebook page called Remember Mikelle Biggs, as she truly believes that someone out there has information and can bring real closure to her sister's case. Kimber reportedly still lives in Mesa today with her long-term boyfriend and their son. And that's the summary for today's case, the disappearance of Mikelle Biggs, which took place in 1999. To reiterate, this case is still active and ongoing, and individuals are encouraged to contact the Mesa Police Department with any relevant information. So all that remains for me to say is thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment or a thumbs up if you found this video of interest, and do subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see similar content in future. See you next time.